Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper. Uncover the hidden secrets of history, from ancient mysteries to lost civilizations. Join us on this thrilling journey. Subscribe and dive into the unknown. The Cold War, a time of spies, secrets, and a race for nuclear power. But what if the biggest secret wasn't about weapons on Earth? What if the Soviet KGB discovered something in Egypt? Something not from our world? Today, we investigate one of the most intriguing conspiracy theories ever, Project ISIS. Was it a top-secret mission to recover an alien body from a pyramid? Or just a clever hoax? Let's find out. The year is 1961. The world is a chessboard, and its two grandmasters, the United States and the Soviet Union, are locked in a silent, deadly game. Every move is calculated. Every secret is a potential weapon. In the cold, gray heart of Moscow, within the formidable walls of the KGB headquarters, a file lands on a desk. It is thin, unassuming, but the information inside is so explosive, so utterly beyond the known rules of the game, that it demands the attention of the highest levels of Soviet power. This file does not contain information about a new American spy plane or a nuclear submarine. It contains a rumor, a whisper from the sun-scorched sands of Egypt, a rumor of a tomb, unlike any other, and an occupant that predates humanity's oldest kings. This was the birth of a mission so secret, it was given a name shrouded in mythology itself. Project ISIS. The story begins not with a bang, but with a quiet conversation. The Soviet Union under Nikita Khrushchev was actively building its influence in the Middle East. Its most prominent partnership was with Egypt, led by Gamal Abdel Nasser. The Soviets were financing and engineering the colossal Aswan High Dam, a project that would change the face of Egypt forever. This alliance was the public face of their relationship. But behind the scenes, it was much deeper. Soviet military advisors walked the halls of the Egyptian Ministry of Defense. Soviet intelligence officers shared information with their Egyptian counterparts. It was within this climate of close, covert cooperation that the first piece of the puzzle emerged. According to the legend of Project ISIS, the initial intelligence came from an unlikely source: two Bedouin brothers who made their living navigating the vast, empty deserts. They had stumbled upon a hidden place, a fissure in the rock in a forgotten corner of the Giza plateau, far from the tourist trails and the watchful eyes of the official antiquities guards. What they found inside scared them. They spoke of strange markings on the walls and a feeling of profound wrongness. Their story, passed through whispers in a Cairo marketplace, was eventually picked up by a low-level Egyptian informant working for the KGB. Normally, such a tale would be dismissed as local superstition. But something about this report was different. The details were specific. The location, while vague, was in a geologically anomalous area that had long puzzled archaeologists. The report was flagged and sent up the chain of command, from Cairo to Moscow. In a world searching for any possible edge, no stone could be left unturned. The decision was made swiftly and in absolute secrecy. A mission would be launched. It wouldn't be a purely Soviet operation. That would be too conspicuous. It would be a joint venture, presented to the world if it were ever discovered as a simple archaeological survey, a gesture of goodwill between allies. But its true name was Project ISIS, and its goal was to confirm if the whispers from the desert were true. A hand-picked team was assembled: geophysicists, cryptographers, experts in ancient languages, and, of course, a heavily armed unit of Spetsnaz, the elite Soviet special forces. They were the best of the best, men chosen not just for their skills, but for their loyalty and their ability to keep a secret. Their arrival in Egypt was discreet. They didn't land in Cairo's busy international airport. Instead, a military transport plane touched down on a remote desert airstrip under the cover of darkness. They were met by a small, elite team of Egyptian soldiers and a single, nervous-looking Egyptian archaeologist. The convoy of rugged, unmarked military trucks then vanished into the desert night, heading towards Giza. Their search was painstaking and methodical. For days, they battled the oppressive Egyptian sun, scanning the area described in the informant's report. They used ground-penetrating radar and seismic sensors, technologies that were cutting-edge for the 1960s. The Giza Plateau, a place that had been picked over for centuries, was being examined with a new kind of vision. Finally, they found it. It wasn't a grand entrance like the one leading into Tutankhamun's tomb. It was a subtle depression in the ground, covered by sand and rock, easily missed by the naked eye. It was exactly where the sensors had indicated an empty space existed beneath the solid bedrock. The soldiers worked quickly, their movements precise and efficient, clearing the entrance. A dark, narrow passage was revealed, sloping down into the earth. The air that flowed out was stale, cold, and carried a faint, metallic scent. It was the smell of a place that had been sealed for an eternity. As the team descended, the beams of their powerful flashlights cut through the absolute darkness. The walls were smooth, carved from the bedrock itself, but the markings on them were what caused the first wave of shock to ripple through the group. The Soviet linguists and the Egyptian archaeologists stood frozen, their lights tracing the carvings. The familiar shapes of Egyptian hieroglyphs were there: the Ankh, the Eye of Horus, the scarab beetle. But they were interwoven with symbols that belonged to no known language on Earth. They were geometric, complex, and seemed to almost shift and move in the flickering light. The narrative told on the walls was even more disturbing. It did not speak of pharaohs or gods of the underworld like Osiris and Anubis. It spoke of a journey, not down the river Nile, but through a sea of stars. It depicted beings with long limbs and large, teardrop-shaped heads descending from the sky in boats of fire. The central story seemed to focus on one specific being, a great leader or a god, who was laid to rest here to await a future return. The Egyptians had a name for this entombed entity, a name that made the mission's codename chillingly appropriate. The hieroglyphs referred to the occupant of the tomb as the visitor, or the winged deity. This was not the tomb of a king. According to these walls, it was the resting place of a god who had come from the heavens. The team followed the passage deeper until it opened into a small, single chamber. And there, in the center of the room, was the ultimate prize. It was a sarcophagus. It rested on a simple stone platform, dominating the small chamber. But it was unlike any sarcophagus ever discovered. It was not made of granite or limestone or even gold. It was carved from a single piece of a dark, basalt-like stone that seemed to absorb the light from their torches, giving it no reflection. It was perfectly smooth, without a single hieroglyph or decoration on its surface. Its design was stark, minimalist, and felt unnervingly modern. The silence in the chamber was absolute, broken only by the heavy breathing of the soldiers and the quiet clicks of the team's Geiger counter, which began to register slightly elevated levels of radiation. The team's commander, a stoic Soviet officer, gave the order. The Spetsnaz soldiers, their faces grim and determined, positioned themselves around the massive stone box. Using heavy crowbars, they began to work on the lid. The sound of metal scraping against the strange stone was jarring, a profane noise in this ancient, silent place. The lid was incredibly heavy. With a final, coordinated effort and a deafening groan of stone grinding against stone, the seal was broken. The lid slid sideways just enough to create a gap. What happened next was chaos. A faint hissing sound escaped from the sarcophagus, and a plume of pale, vaporous gas billowed out into the chamber. It smelled acrid and chemical. Immediately, soldiers began to cough violently, clutching their throats and stumbling backward. One man collapsed. Panic erupted. The commander screamed orders. Gas masks on. Get back. Medics. The trained soldiers quickly pulled on their respiratory equipment while the scientists retreated toward the tunnel entrance. It took several tense minutes for the air to clear, the strange gas dissipating into the ancient stillness. When they cautiously approached the sarcophagus again, their flashlights pierced the gloom, illuminating what lay inside. And in that moment, the Cold War, the race for nuclear arms, and all the political games being played on the surface of the earth became meaningless. What they saw would forever change their understanding of the world. Inside the sarcophagus, there was no mummy wrapped in linen bandages. There was no golden death mask. There was only a body, lying perfectly preserved as if it had been placed there only yesterday. It was humanoid, but it was not human. It was tall, well over 2 meters in length, with limbs that were long and slender, almost delicate. Its skin was a pale, grayish blue, and seemed to have a strange, almost translucent quality. The head was large and elongated, resting on a thin neck. But the face was what burned itself into their minds. It had no discernible nose, just 2 small slits. The mouth was a simple, thin slit, and the eyes were massive, black, almond-shaped voids that seemed to stare up into nothingness. The body was clothed in a simple, tight-fitting tunic made of a material that resembled no known fabric. It was a sight of pure, unadulterated alienness. They were staring at the physical remains of the visitor the walls had spoken of. A being that, according to carbon dating tests they would later perform on organic material in the tomb, had been laid to rest here approximately 13,000 years ago. The shock and awe lasted only for a moment. It was immediately replaced by the cold, hard reality of their mission. This discovery could not be allowed to exist in the public record. It was a secret that could shatter religions, topple governments, and shift the balance of global power in an instant. The Soviet commander, his voice steady despite what he had just witnessed, began issuing a new set of orders. This was no longer an exploration. It was a recovery operation of the highest priority. The entire process became a model of cold Soviet efficiency. The chamber was meticulously photographed and filmed from every angle, creating the very footage that would one day leak to the world. The strange artifacts found alongside the sarcophagusmal, metallic devices of unknown purpose and stone tablets with the same alien script were carefully catalogued and packed. The body of the visitor itself was treated with the utmost care. It was gently lifted from its 13,000-year-old resting place and sealed within a specially designed, hermetically sealed container. Everything was packed into large, unmarked wooden crates. Within hours, under the protective darkness of the Egyptian night, the convoy made its way back to the remote military airstrip. There was no ceremony, no discussion, just the silent, efficient work of soldiers loading their world-changing cargo onto a waiting transport plane. The plane took off without filing a flight plan, its destination a single word on a classified document: Moscow. Back at the Giza plateau, the final phase of the operation was underway. The entrance to the tomb was sealed, not with stone, but with explosives. The fissure in the rock was collapsed, and the landscape was expertly altered to make it look as if it had never been disturbed. All records of the joint mission were expunged from Egyptian and Soviet archives. The soldiers and scientists who participated were debriefed and forced to sign lifelong non-disclosure agreements, backed by the implicit threat of what happens to those who betray the state. For all official purposes, Project ISIS never happened. The tomb of the visitor was returned to the sands of time, its location a secret once more. And in a secure, underground research facility deep inside Russia, scientists began the slow, secret work of trying to understand the visitor from the stars and the technological secrets it may have brought with it. The story was over, buried under layers of secrecy and the vast emptiness of the desert. Or so they thought. A story as monumental as a secret Soviet mission to recover an alien body from an Egyptian tomb cannot survive on whispers alone. Secrets of that magnitude have a gravitational pull. They demand evidence, they crave confirmation. If Project Isis were truly real, buried for decades under layers of state-enforced silence, how would its story ever reach the light of day? The answer is simple: it would have to leak. Not all at once, but in pieces of grainy video here, a classified document there, fragments of a forbidden truth emerging from the shadows. And for those who believe in Project Isis, this is exactly what happened. The case for its existence isn't built on a single claim, but on a collection of powerful, interconnected pieces of evidence that, when viewed together, paint a picture so detailed and compelling that it becomes difficult to ignore. The cornerstone of this entire mystery, the exhibit that first captured the world's imagination, is a short, silent piece of film. It's the kind of footage that feels like a ghost from another time. Grainy, flickering, and shot in stark black and white, the video immediately transports you to a bygone era. There is no dramatic Hollywood music, no slick editing. Its power lies in its raw, almost clumsy authenticity. The video opens in what is clearly a dark, confined space, illuminated by the harsh glare of military flashlights. We see men dressed in what appear to be Soviet-era military uniforms, their faces tense and focused. They move with purpose, surrounding a large, stone sarcophagus. The lack of sound is unnerving. It forces you to focus on the visuals, on the nonverbal communication between the soldiers. You can see the strain in their bodies as they pry open the heavy lid, the way they flinch and recoil as a cloud of vapor, the supposed toxic gas, erupts from within. This moment of chaos feels real. It's not choreographed. Men cough and step back, their movements urgent and unscripted. Then comes the climax. The camera pushes in, shaky and uncertain, to peer inside the now open sarcophagus. And there it is, the body of a being that is clearly not human. Even in the poor quality of the footage, the details are visible. The elongated skull, the large, dark eye sockets, the slender torso. The camera lingers for only a few seconds before cutting away, as if the person filming was either in shock or was ordered to stop. For believers, this video is the smoking gun. It feels less like a production and more like forbidden historical footage, something that was never meant to be seen by public eyes. Its imperfections are what make it seem perfect. A professional hoax, they argue, would be cleaner, better lit, more dramatic. The raw, documentary-style feel of the Project Isis film gives it a powerful veneer of truth. It doesn't tell you a story. It shows you a moment, leaving you to grapple with the terrifying implications of what you've just witnessed. But a silent video, no matter how provocative, is just a moving picture. It lacks context, names, dates, and purpose. It raises more questions than it answers. This is where the second, crucial piece of the puzzle falls into place. The supposed official KGB report that surfaced alongside the film. If the video is the visual shock, the document is the intellectual confirmation. It's a sheaf of papers filled with dense, official-looking Cyrillic typescript. At the top is the letterhead of the KGB, complete with the hammer and sickle insignia. The document is presented as a leaked report from the desk of a high-ranking KGB officer, summarizing the findings of Project Isis. And its contents are an investigator's dream. It gives the mission a date, 1961. It lists the names and roles of the key personnel, from the Soviet scientists to the military commander. It explicitly states the mission's objective: to secure the remains of a non-terrestrial creature and any related technology. The report goes into staggering detail. It describes the artifacts found in the tomb, including what it calls a navigation device and power sources. Most importantly, it provides the first scientific analysis of the being itself. The document claims that carbon dating of the tomb's organic materials placed the burial at approximately 13,000 years old, a figure that sends shockwaves through our understanding of human history. It describes the alien's cellular structure as being closer to a plant than an animal, capable of drawing energy directly from its environment. Suddenly, the strange, silent figure in the video has a backstory, a scientific context. The report transforms a mysterious event into a documented scientific discovery. It provides the cold, hard data that the grainy footage could not. For those piecing the story together, the video and the report lock together perfectly, each one reinforcing the credibility of the other. But for a story this grand, cold facts and silent videos aren't enough. A conspiracy needs a human face. It needs a whistleblower, a voice from the inside who can validate the documents and speak to the reality of the experience. The Project ISIS legend provides this figure in the form of Dr. Viktor Ivanovich, a supposed Russian neurologist and scientist. According to the lore, Ivanovich was one of the few elite scientists flown to Egypt and was part of the core team that analyzed the alien body, both on-site and later in the secret labs back in Moscow. His testimony, which appeared in various forms across conspiracy forums and documentaries, is the third pillar supporting the entire structure. Viktor Ivanovich, as a character, brings the story to life. He is the alleged eyewitness who can fill in the gaps. His accounts describe the awe and fear that gripped the team as they stood before the sarcophagus. He speaks of the alien's biology not in the dry terms of the official report, but with the fascination of a scientist who has touched the impossible. He allegedly described its circulatory system, its unique brain structure, and his theory that the being was not dead in the traditional sense, but in a state of suspended animation, preserved by the strange gas inside the sarcophagus. He adds the emotional weight, the human drama, that the video and the report lack. He is the one who can say, "I was there. I saw it with my own eyes." The existence of a credible, scientific eyewitness, even one who remains mostly in the shadows, makes the unbelievable feel personal and true. He provides the human anchor for an event that is, in every sense of the word, alien. Now, with a video, a report, and a witness, the case for Project ISIS seems incredibly strong. The narrative is internally consistent and rich with detail. But there is one final, crucial question that a skeptic would ask. Could this have even happened? Why would Egypt, a nation fiercely proud of its ancient heritage, ever allow a foreign power to secretly enter its lands, excavate a tomb, and fly away with the single greatest discovery in human history? The answer, and the fourth pillar of belief, lies in the unique political reality of the 1960s. This is not a story that could have happened at any other time. In the early 1960s, the relationship between the Soviet Union and Egypt was at its absolute peak. The West, particularly the US and UK, had refused to fund President Nasser's dream project, the Aswan High Dam. The Soviets eagerly stepped in, offering billions in loans, advanced technology, and, most importantly, thousands of their own engineers, technicians, and advisors. For years, Egypt was teeming with Soviet personnel. They were a common sight in Cairo and Aswan, working side by side with their Egyptian counterparts. This deep military and industrial alliance created the perfect cover. A secret mission like Project ISIS would not have been an invasion or a theft. It would have been a clandestine joint operation between two close allies. Proponents of the theory argue that the initial discovery was made by the Egyptians, who, lacking the advanced technology to understand what they had found, turned to their most powerful and trusted partner. A small, elite team of Soviet experts could have easily been slipped into the country under the guise of being advisors for the Aswan Dam or some other military project. Their equipment could have been shipped in diplomatic crates, immune from inspection. The entire operation could have been conducted under the noses of Western intelligence agencies, hidden in plain sight amidst the massive, legitimate Soviet presence already in the country. This geopolitical context is the foundation upon which the entire story rests. It makes the logistics of the mission, which might otherwise seem impossible, entirely plausible. It provides the real-world framework that makes the unbelievable story of an alien tomb hunt feel chillingly possible. So when you put all the pieces together, the haunting visual proof of the video, the detailed documentary evidence of the KGB report, the personal testimony of an alleged eyewitness, and the solid geopolitical foundation of the Soviet-Egyptian alliance, you are left with a powerful and coherent narrative. Each piece of evidence supports the others, weaving a story that is not only fascinating but, for many, entirely convincing. It's this web of interconnected proof that has elevated Project ISIS from a simple rumor into one of the most enduring and believable conspiracy theories of the modern age. We have now seen the evidence. A chilling, silent video, a detailed, official-looking report, the testimony of an insider, and a political climate that makes the impossible seem plausible. Together, they create a fortress of belief around Project ISIS. It's a story so well constructed, with each piece of evidence supporting the others, that it feels airtight. But the true art of investigation isn't just in admiring a structure. It's in testing its foundations. And when you begin to press on the key pillars of the Project ISIS legend, you find that this formidable fortress may, in fact, be a house of cards. To understand the truth, we must stop looking at the story itself and start investigating the storytellers. So let's begin with the most powerful piece of evidence, the emotional core of the entire mystery. What about that grainy black and white video? Is it truly lost footage from a top-secret KGB mission in 1961? The search for its origin doesn't lead us to the declassified archives of the Kremlin or a dusty vault in Moscow. Instead, it leads us to a much more public place, a television studio in the United States. The footage that has fueled a global conspiracy theory for decades was not filmed in 1961. It was meticulously and expertly created in 1998 for a TV special that aired on the American Sci-Fi Channel, a network known for its love of fiction, speculation, and all things extraterrestrial. The program was called The Secret KGB UFO Files, and its entire purpose was to present UFO-related conspiracy theories in a dramatic, documentary-style format. The Project ISIS segment was its crown jewel. The producers hired actors to play the Soviet soldiers. They sourced or created period-accurate uniforms and equipment. They filmed the scenes on a constructed set designed to look like the inside of a tomb. And most importantly, they made a deliberate artistic choice to shoot it on black and white film and then degrade the quality, adding scratches, grain, and simulated aging to make it look like a long-lost piece of historical footage. The shaky camera, the chaotic reaction to the gas, the quick, tantalizing glimpse of the alien probe hit was all scripted, directed, and performed. The video's greatest strength, its raw, unpolished feel, was not a sign of its authenticity, but a testament to the skill of the filmmakers. They weren't documenting history, they were manufacturing it for television. The smoking gun turns out to be firing blanks, a brilliant prop in a primetime paranormal special. Alright, a skeptic might say the video could be a reenactment, but that doesn't explain the highly detailed KGB report that surfaced with it. The video could be fake, but the documents feel real. They contain specific data, names, and scientific jargon that lend the story an air of irrefutable authority. This is where the story gets really clever. If the video is a prop, what about the report? Once again, when we trace the origins of this document, we find that it doesn't come from any official source. No reputable historian, no archivist, and no government, neither Russian nor American, has ever authenticated this report. This paper trail begins and ends with the very same TV special. The leaked KGB document was almost certainly created by the show's producers as another prop, a piece of world-building to make their fictional segment more believable. It is a masterpiece of verisimilitude, the appearance of being true or real. The Cyrillic text, the official-looking letterhead, the technical terminology, it's all designed to overwhelm the viewer with a sense of authenticity. In the world of storytelling, this is a common technique. A fantasy novel might include a detailed map. A science fiction movie might show you a complex technical schematic. These elements make the fictional world feel more immersive, but they are still part of the fiction. The KGB report functions in exactly the same way. It's the map to the fantasy of Project ISIS. It was created to be shown on screen for a few seconds, to be referenced by the narrator, and to add a layer of intellectual credibility to the visual drama of the video. The report doesn't prove the video is real. It's simply part of the same fictional package. This leads us directly to the human element of the story, the supposed whistleblower who ties it all together. The mysterious scientist, Dr. Viktor Ivanovich. He is the voice of reason and experience, the man who was supposedly there and saw it all. If he was real, then perhaps the story is real regardless of the video and the report. So, did a neurologist named Viktor Ivanovich ever work on a top-secret KGB project involving alien bodies? The answer, after exhaustive searches of academic, scientific, and declassified government records, is a resounding no. There is no credible evidence that a scientist by this name with this background ever existed in this context. He appears to be a completely fictional character, an archetype created for the narrative. Think about his role in the story. He is the wise expert who can explain the complex science, describe the alien's biology, and convey the awe and terror of the discovery. He provides the human drama and the scientific authority that a silent video and a dry report cannot. He is a narrative device, a character designed to make the story feel personal and true. With the video exposed as a reenactment and the report as a prop, the eyewitness who validates them is also revealed to be part of the script. The entire foundation of evidence video, document, and witness collapses because it all comes from the same single fictional source. But there is one final argument, the most compelling one for those who want to believe. It's the one piece of the puzzle that is undeniably real: the historical context. The close relationship between the Soviet Union and Egypt in the 1960s is a historical fact. The Aswan Dam project was real. The massive Soviet presence in Egypt was real. Surely, this means the mission was at least plausible. This is the most brilliant aspect of the hoax. The creators of the secret KGB UFO files didn't invent their story in a vacuum. They took a core of undeniable historical truth and built their fictional narrative on top of it. It's a classic technique for creating a believable lie. Wrap it in a blanket of truth. The real Soviet-Egyptian alliance of the 1960s serves as the perfect stage for this fictional drama. It provides the cover, the logistics, and the political rationale for how such a secret mission could have been pulled off. However, plausibility is not proof. While the opportunity might have existed, the complete and total lack of any corroborating evidence is the most damning fact of all. Real-world top-secret projects, no matter how clandestine, leave a footprint. The American Manhattan Project, which built the atomic bomb, involved hundreds of thousands of people and left a mountain of documentation that was eventually declassified. Even the U.S. government's real investigations into UFOs, like Project Blue Book, generated thousands of pages of reports. For Project ISIS, there is a total void. There are no budget requests in the Soviet archives.
No unusual personnel transfers. No declassified shipping manifests.
No memoirs from retired KGB agents or Egyptian officers hinting at a discovery that would change the world. The silence surrounding Project ISIS isn't the sound of a perfectly kept secret. It's the sound of something that never happened. The entire story, from the tomb discovery to the secret flight to Moscow, appears to have been born in a writer's room in 1998, not in the sands of Giza in 1961. The truth of Project ISIS isn't about aliens or pyramids. It's a fascinating case study in how a well-told story, anchored to a piece of real history, can take on a life of its own and become a modern legend. We have taken the story of Project ISIS apart, piece by piece. We've examined the video and found a television prop. We've scrutinized the documents and discovered a script. We've searched for the eyewitness and found a character. From a logical, evidence-based perspective, the case is closed. And yet the story lives on. It continues to be shared in late-night conversations, discussed in online forums, and featured in new documentaries. It holds a power that the simple, mundane truth that it was all a TV show seems unable to defeat. This raises the most fascinating question of all. If the evidence is so flimsy, why does this story refuse to die? The answer is that Project ISIS is more than just a hoax. It's a perfect conspiracy. It's a masterclass in modern myth-making. Its endurance has nothing to do with facts and everything to do with how skillfully it combines four of the most powerful and resonant ideas in our collective imagination. It's a perfect storm of mystery, and to understand its power, we need to look at its ingredients. The first and most important ingredient is the thick, paranoid fog of the Cold War. For nearly half a century, the world was divided by an iron curtain, a barrier that was as much psychological as it was physical. On our side, there was the known world. On the other side, behind that curtain, was a vast, secretive empire, the Soviet Union. It was a place of shadows, a place where anything seemed possible because so little was truly known. We knew they had nuclear bombs and powerful spy agencies like the KGB. We lived under the constant, low-level fear of a secret war being fought by men in trench coats in the back alleys of Vienna and Berlin. This atmosphere of intense suspicion is the fertile ground in which the seed of Project ISIS was planted. The story doesn't just feature any country. It specifically names the KGB, an organization that, in the Western imagination, is synonymous with ruthless efficiency and absolute secrecy. The idea that the KGB would run a mission like this feels right. It fits the character we've already created for them. Furthermore, the Cold War was a relentless technological race. The space race wasn't just about planting a flag on the moon. It was about proving whose system, whose ideology, was superior. Now, consider the ultimate trump card in that race. It wouldn't be a faster jet or a bigger bomb. It would be reverse engineering alien technology. The thought that the Soviets might have gotten their hands on this ultimate prize, that they might have been secretly decades ahead of us, taps directly into the deepest anxieties of that era. Project ISIS is a Cold War story at its heart. It takes the real-world paranoia of a global superpower rivalry and elevates it to a cosmic scale. But the setting of the story is just as important as the context, and this brings us to the second powerful ingredient, the timeless enigma of ancient Egypt. There is no place on Earth that holds more mystery in the popular mind. For thousands of years, the pyramids of Giza have stood as silent monuments to a lost world, inspiring awe and endless questions. How did a civilization without modern machinery build structures with such mathematical precision? What was the true purpose of the Great Pyramid? The world of ancient Egypt is already a realm of secrets, of hidden tombs, golden treasures, and the rumored curses that protect them. It's a place where the line between history and mythology is beautifully blurred. The creators of the Project ISIS story were geniuses for choosing this location. They didn't place their alien discovery in a random crater in Siberia or a field in rural America. They placed it in the one location on Earth that is already primed for unbelievable discoveries. By setting their story in a hidden tomb in Giza, they piggybacked on centuries of existing wonder. The storytellers didn't have to create a sense of mystery from scratch. They simply tapped into one that was already there. It's a case of mystery amplifying mystery. The question, did aliens visit Earth, becomes infinitely more powerful when it's combined with the question, how were the pyramids built? The two mysteries merge into one, creating a narrative so compelling that it feels like it should be true. The pyramids become more than just tombs for pharaohs. They become plausible hangars for ancient alien visitors. This leads us directly to the third, and perhaps most potent, ingredient in this perfect conspiracy: the ancient aliens factor. The idea that extraterrestrials visited humanity in the distant past is not new. It's a theory popularized in books and television shows that has captivated millions. The ancient astronaut theory proposes that many of humanity's ancient myths, religious texts, and megalithic structures are actually misinterpreted records of contact with advanced alien beings. Were the chariots of fire in the Bible actually spacecraft? Were the gods of ancient cultures just extraterrestrials with advanced technology? This theory offers a single, grand explanation for dozens of historical and archaeological puzzles. Project Isis fits into this pre-existing belief system like the final, missing piece of a puzzle. For someone who already suspects that aliens had a hand in our past, the story isn't a wild new claim. It's the modern-day confirmation they've been waiting for. It is the physical proof. The story of a 13,000-year-old alien body found in a sarcophagus in Egypt doesn't create a new belief. It validates an existing one. It provides the aha moment, the discovery that seems to prove the entire ancient astronaut hypothesis in one fell swoop. This is why the story has such a dedicated following. It's not just a standalone conspiracy theory. It has become a foundational piece of evidence for a much larger, global belief system. It gives a scattered community of believers a tangible, dramatic event to point to, transforming their speculation into something that feels like discovered history. And that leads us to the final, all-encompassing reason for the story's endurance. When you mix the high-stakes paranoia of the Cold War, the timeless mystery of ancient Egypt, and the grand, unifying theory of ancient aliens, what you are left with is the fourth ingredient: the simple, undeniable power of a fantastic story. At its core, Project Isis is a thrilling adventure. It has all the elements of a blockbuster movie: heroic spies, ancient secrets, a shocking discovery, and a global cover-up. It's a narrative that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about who we are and where we come from. We, as humans, are wired for stories. Stories help us make sense of the world. And the bigger the questions, the more we crave a satisfying narrative. The question, are we alone in the universe, is one of the biggest we can ask. The academic, scientific answer is, we don't know yet. It's a truthful answer, but it's also unsatisfying. Project Isis, on the other hand, provides a spectacular, dramatic, and emotionally resonant answer. It tells us that not only are we not alone, but they have been here before, and our own governments have been hiding the truth from us. It's a story that is infinitely more exciting than the quiet, patient work of real science. And so, even when presented with the evidence that it's a hoax, many choose to hold on to the story. Because the story is better. It's more interesting. It makes the world feel like a more magical, mysterious, and exciting place. It's a modern myth that fulfills a deep human need to believe that there are still great, world-shattering secrets left to be discovered, hidden just beneath the sands of time. So, is Project Isis a lost chapter of the Cold War? All credible evidence says no. It appears to be a brilliantly crafted hoax for a TV show, a story built from the perfect ingredients of Cold War paranoia and Egyptian mystery. But it shows us something powerful, our endless fascination with the unknown. It proves that we are always searching for answers, looking to the pyramids and to the stars, wondering if we are truly alone. What do you think? Was there a grain of truth to the story? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more explorations into humanity's greatest mysteries. Thanks for exploring history's mysteries with Ancient Relics Keeper. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. What secret should we unravel next? Stay curious and see you soon.